So our next speaker is Rob Cook, who's Director of Business Development of, I want to say Bamert. I got it right, okay. Bamert Seed Company. Rob is the Director of Business Development, where he's responsible for developing the strategic plan to produce and provide native grass, forb, and legume seed to the reclamation and agricultural industries. Rob supervises the Bamert sales team and manages the team's budget and project implementation. Sounds like he puts paper. He also helps to manage the grazing plan for the Bamert cow, calf, and stocker operation. Rob previously served as the plant consultation manager for the Noble Research Institute, where he led a multidisciplinary consultation team to help land managers and maintain or improve ecological function on farms and ranches across the southern Great Plains. He also previously worked for NRCS, where he served as district conservationist and rangeland management specialist. Helping producers with the range planning practices was one of his key duties. He currently serves as vice chairman for National Grazing Land Coalition, where he helps to work to secure partners' support and funding to ensure that the needs of our nation's grazing lands are met and ensure on-the-ground assistance to grazing land managers. And Rob's presentation is Native Seed Blend Development Tool, a web app to help producers develop a site-specific native seed blend adapted to their area. Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, sir. Brett, great presentation. I really enjoyed that, and thanks for making it over here. It is pretty impressive that you could get ready for that many chickens in 3 days. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you today about a web application that we call SeedSpec that's under development. And what it allows you to do is develop a site-specific native seed blend for whatever project you have. It's a collaboration between Colorado State University, George Peacock, and Dr. Olaf David. And their lab, they have a lab that develops geospatial tools to help and ag applications. And Bamert Seed Company is a native grass seed company that's been around since 1951. We produce about 125 different varieties of species of native grasses, forbs, and legumes on our own farm, and then bring those back in, clean them, and sell custom blends to meet site-specific goals for our producers, anywhere from ag to the oil and gas energy, solar farm energy, wildlife habitat reclamation, or any of those needs. So we produce about 80 to 90% of the seed that we sell on our own farms, but we concentrate on producing varieties and species to fit all of our area of influence. So we sell to the majority of the lower 48 states, but this app is specific really to our sphere of influence, which is Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Colorado, and Kansas. And the reason for that, for this specific app, is the data that this app utilizes is very robust for that area, and we just so happen to work in that area too. And it's kind of a little bit intimidating because several folks in the audience had a hand in the development of this data set that we're about to utilize. So we'll go through that. But it's geospatial, so it uses your area of interest, whether that's part of a pasture, your whole ranch, your farm, a pipeline. It uses that area of interest. So we're able to use a geospatial platform to draw off that area of interest and use that as a cookie cutter to hit these large databases and only bring back the information that we need from these huge databases to utilize to develop that site-specific blend that fits your specific area. We're not looking at a broad map, okay, this grass is viable for for these states. So it's site specific down to your area of interest. So why is it needed? Why do we feel between Colorado State and Bamert Seed Company that we're going to develop the seed spec? Well, the data is available across, especially in our area of interest, for what natively grows there. It is available. It's not Bamert Seed Company or XYZ Seed Company saying this is what fits that area. The data has been collected by a third party. It's NRCS, and we'll get into that a little bit more where that comes from. But it's that's the best data. It's not perfect, Dennis, but it's the best data that we have available. And I've used it my entire career, and it hadn't let me down. It hadn't let me down yet. It can be cumbersome to get to, and it's in multiple places. And you almost have to have a working knowledge of how to use these databases or to how to interpret the mountains of data that you get. It's all valuable and it's all good, but for this application to develop a native seed blend that fits your area, it takes a lot of time to go through that just to get it. So this tool expedites that, and it only gives us the information we need to accomplish our goal. So why do we care what grows in our area? What difference does it make? It's because species selection is vital. It's key to making sure that we have stand establishment and that stand persists. We need to have those species that are adapted to that area. Beyond just that, we need to know what varieties of those species. There's several different varieties. It's even down to local ecotype now. Kind of the industry is demanding that part of the industry wants a variety that fits a lot of places, and part of them wants to take genetics from a specific ecoregion, have a seed company produce those, and then have those genetics planted back onto that region. So knowing, how do I know what variety fits my area? Where is that information? So a lot of times right now that's available in different spec sheets from NRCS, from a cultivar, a varietal that's been released from a plant materials center, from programs like the Texas Native Seed Program that release that, or from your seed company. But as an individual, you got to do a lot of work and a lot of Googling. You got to go to Google's pretty often to figure out which one of those varieties fit your specific area. And so that's all well and great. I have some goals, and I can find this data that shows what naturally grows there. But my goal, Brett, might be cattle production. So I'm pretty sure maybe in my area that little blue stem, big blue stem, and yellow Indian grass are the main plants that are going to produce the high quality forage for my animals. So why do I care about everything else that grows there? Well, if we're doing a reclamation project, a lot of times we're not operating on climax soils. A lot of times we might be trying to restore a degraded soil. And I can't plant just climax species on a soil that is not in climax condition and expect to have a good stand establishment in less than 5 years, Dan. It's just hard to do that. So knowing those other species that are that are adapted to that area, those lower successional species, and adding that into my seed blend sets the stage, gets the biology going in the soil, gets a root growing, adds a little bit of cover, and sets the stage for my higher successional species to come up. There'll be several times, sand drop seed is a good example of something that'll almost come up on this floor, and we recommend that. So why in the world would I want to plant sand drop seed? And if you're not familiar with the plant, I think side oats grama is a state grass of Texas, but sand drop seed should be, because there's so many degraded range sites that are sand drop seed, and that's about all that get people through a lot of hard times. There's sand drop seed all over the state, so people are a lot of times trying to get away from that. Just that, and we're adding it back into the blend, and they think we're a little bit crazy until we talk through it. It's part of the ecosystem services that you've been hearing about and the biology that we've talked about today. So, okay, I've got my species list. I don't know what on that list is commercially viable. I could see that list, and there could be a list of 80 different species, and I go through there, and I'm like, it's great. I'm going to put a little bit of this in there and a little bit of that. I love that plant. Put a little bit of that in there, and you go to your seed dealer, and they, well, we got 2 of these. So how do you know? You spend the time to find all this data. How do you know what's commercially available? Your seed dealer is going to have more than 2, but there's always that little bit of disappointment, or that I work to develop this blend that's going to fit my area, and not all of it's available. And then all these species in this list, but how do I create the blend? How do I know of how many of them to put in? So we've developed this web app that's basically kind of like TurboTax. It walks you through all this and gives you all this information, so you go step by step, and you're able to at least have a starting spot to have a conversation with a seed professional or conservation professional, whoever it is, or just yourself. So why plant natives? And we've talked a whole lot, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I don't want to get us behind, Robert, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time because we've talked about a lot of it this week. But biodiversity is one of the key reasons to plant native. That biodiversity allows all of our ecosystem services, our nutrient cycle, our energy cycle, our water cycle to function. It provides wildlife habitat and pollinator habitat in those ecosystem services. There's a talk going on right now, right next door, that's talking about stacking ecosystem services on top of one another as payments for the management that we're doing on our grazing lands. And properly managed native systems inherently allow you to be in a position to capitalize on that. The biodiversity in that allows you, properly managed, allows you those ecosystem services to function. Clean water, clean air, carbon sequestration, that kind of thing. So here's biodiversity. Biodiversity above ground leads to biodiversity to below ground. And we could just talk about the root structure. You talk about the root structure in this picture and all those different types of roots and all those different types of plants and all those different types of structure. There's a lot of biodiversity in just those roots. There's different growth curves of those plants above ground too. So each one of those plants is taking nutrients and water from different parts of that soil profile through different times in the year. In a monoculture, a lot of the times, all of our demand is at the same spot in that soil profile at the same time of the year. The biodiversity below ground is our best insurance against drought. That functioning system allows water infiltration, increase our organic matter, increase our water holding capacity. We're infiltrating more water and we're able to hold on to it. If you're in a different part of the country than I am and lack of water is not your issue, infiltration in this system gets the water off the ground and into the soil where it's able to be utilized, and it's not running off or creating problems or bogging it up or things like that. Those different roots put off exudases that attract different microbes. So why is this important? The biodiversity below ground, the biodiversity below ground, those different roots attract different types of the microbiome. 20 to 50% of the carbon enters the rhizosphere, the root zones, through the exudates, different types. So the biodiversity below ground means we're going to have more carbon below ground also. And I really don't care what side of the coin you set on the carbon issue, because the fact of the matter is it's providing all of us an opportunity. So plant diversity above ground does lead to increased microbiology productivity. And I stole this slide from Jeff Goodwin, but this study shows, you can see, as we increase the number of plant species, we're also increasing our microbial biomass. That microbial biomass is leading to higher microbial respiration. It means those microbes in the soil are doing their job and the nutrient cycle's working. The water cycle's working. More biodiversity above ground leads to more biodiversity below ground. which leads to my last point there, fewer inputs. You see, this study suggests that the more plant species you have equals more plant available nitrogen in the system. My years of consultation across the southern Great Plains, I've always kind of wondered, it's always kind of what's going on in the system where I can have an introduced grass monoculture of Bermuda grass. I have to put inputs into the fertilization to get to my 8,000 pounds of production per acre, which in a properly managed tall grass native prairie produces 8,000 pounds of production without any inputs. What's going on there? It's the biology. Okay, so where does our data come from? And I think there's been some presentations that have shown this today. The reason we're presenting this to you is because we want input. We want user feedback as we develop this tool to make sure we don't build something and then say, oh, here it is, it's free to use, everybody use it, and say, well, what if it did this? But here's where our data comes from. Web Soil Survey. So I use this every day and I have for my whole career, but there's a lot of information in there and it could take some time to get used to using it. And it's great. I'm not saying don't use this, but what I'm saying is I'm using our tool and the cookie cutter of our area of information to go get the same exact data and bring it back to you with one click of a button after I draw my area of interest. So I know what my soils are from Web Soil Survey. From that, I can tell what my ecological site is. If I know what my ecological site is, I know what my plant species composition is, and I can develop a native seed blend. But if you see in just this small area, there's 4 map unit symbols with all these inclusions. You got to understand what an inclusion is and how that works within a map unit symbol. And there's ecological sites associated with every one of those inclusions. So unless you kind of had a degree in soil science, this is a really confusing graph. Another thing about this, to get to that species list, I have to click on this one of those hot links over there where my ecological site is and go to another database. When I get to that database, I've got to understand within this database how to get to my list of species. Great data in this. This is a phenomenal database, and it actually helps you manage your piece of property. But to develop a native seed blend, you got to wade through a lot of it. Well, you go to ecological dynamics and you search through this list of species. So now I know my list of species, right? For this site, this is what that list looks like. I have no clue which varieties to select from this list, and unless I understand everything about this, I don't know what percentage of those species I need to have in my blend. So that's where seed spec comes in. And this is the workflow. There's basically 5 or 6 different steps that we can utilize to develop the seed blend. The first we're going to do is we're going to describe our project area. And the reason we're doing that is because right now this is a free service. Once this gets released, anybody can use this. We're not saving any data for you to log in later and have your area of interest. So your output is a report. It's a PDF report. So we need all this information in there to have a description of what's going on. So when this is taken to your seed dealer, hopefully Bamert Seed, there's enough information on this report that we can have a conversation about what this data is telling us. Because it's not the silver bullet. It's the starting point. So we describe our area, and then we're going to define our area of interest or our seeding. It's a simple drawing a polygon. Click, click, click. There's our square. We can use a tool. This other tool just draws a perfect square. We could draw a center pivot off of this. It draws a circle. There's a lot. This is easy, intuitive. If you've used Google Maps or Google Earth, this is very easy to use. Or you can import a shapefile. Okay? You can name your field. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to move on to view our soil information and view our ecological sites. So remember, we just created an area of interest, and we're using that as a cookie cutter. We're going to go hit the Sturgo databases, which Web Soil Survey uses, return back our soils. And then from that, we're going to go hit edit, that database I showed you with ecological sites, and bring back our list of species, okay? So here's a soils map. That probably looks pretty familiar. We just saw it kind of in Web Soil Survey. It's basically the same. If you look down here, it's got the name of our soils. You could pull that up, and there's all of our map units. and the acres and the percentage that are within our area of interest. If you want to dive in a little deeper, you can. You could click on that map unit on the map. You can see all of that AVA is highlighted there. And you can go a little bit, and we give a brief profile description so you know, okay, I'm in the right spot, and this is what my soil looks like. If you want more information, that we can hot link. It's not hot linked right now, but that map unit symbol will be hot linked to that soil description off of the Sturgo database if you want to dig in a little further. We also only bring back the ecological sites for the dominant. We don't bring them back for all the inclusions. For this purpose, not a research project, for this purpose, those small inclusions, we don't want to confuse things. And we only bring the dominant ecological sites back. If it's less than 5%, we don't even display them because it'll confuse the issue and complicate it. So if our area of interest is very big and crosses multiple MLRAs, where it's going to be really hard maybe to develop one seed blend that fixes the whole thing, or if they're really different, those ecological sites, we might have one that's an area of interest that has 40% upland and 60% lowland. We don't want to develop one blend maybe to meet that whole area of interest. System's going to give you a warning, says you might want to split this area of interest up to develop a better site-specific seed blend to make sure that you have success. So this is hot link now. You can go to edit, Dan, to that ecological site and pull it up. And if you need all that information, you can go straight through it. But it's not confusing the issue here trying to develop our seed blend. And there it is. It looks that's just the same as the other. So then the next step in our process is to develop the seed blend. So what it does is it brings that species composition list from edit, and it cross-references it with our database that shows what's commercially available. And that's what this list is. It gives a range of recommended percentages of what to use in that blend based off of percent of dominance by weight from edit, from the list. So it's just a recommendation, but you could come over here in your desired blend percent and use your recommendation of each one of those species and add what percentage of your blend you want each one of those species to be. And you could see in this instance, El Reno, we decided to go more than the recommended. We're going to go with 30%. So the tool allows flexibility, but it just gives recommendations. And you can go above 100%. This would be the NRCS recommended rate. It's planting rate per acres is how we're getting it. And to tell you the truth, that's a minimum. A lot of times we recommend going at least double the NRCS recommended rate to help overcome adverse conditions and increase our chances of effective stand establishment. And then we're going to get to our report. So right now, this free version, this is your output. This is what you get from this tool, is this report. You see, you can open it, you can download it, you can print it, but this is kind of an example of what this report looks like. So you have all this information that you can then take and have a starting point to have discussion on what blend you need to go out to have success. So there's just our area of interest. You can see here, these are the species we selected and their percentages. And then you can see what the PLS seeding rate in pounds is. That's NRCS data. That's published data that we use that from we've collected. It's in several different areas too. You've got to kind of know where to go to get it. So 30% of that rate, you'll get, in that first line, you get 1.4 PLS pounds per acre in that blend of that species. So there at the bottom, you can see you've got the seeding rate. This is 100% of NRCS seeding rates, 3.8 pounds. Your total PLS for this blend is 293 pounds. And again, this can be more than, probably most times on a lot of projects, this would be double. So this is a starting point. You know these are available. You know these are the varieties that are adapted to that area. So what we've gone into our database of of available products, we've taken all of the spec sheets for all these varieties and assigned an MLRA to where they are, MLR, Major Land Resource Area, the ecological site where they're most adapted. So we've combed through all that information, put it into our database to help you not have to do that. There's our soils map. So that's just a piece of the puzzle. It's not the end-all be-all. You still have to plant it correctly. Seeding native grass is not the same as seeding grains. You can't really have that seed depth more than a half to a quarter inch. These depth bands are vital. They keep that opener from going down too deep. You have enough down pressure to get the seed in the ground, but you're not planting it too deep. These are really fluffy seeds. They won't flow through a grain drill. It's been tried several times, and we spend a lot of time working with people. You have to have this native seed box with this agitator to keep it from bridging up and keep all that blended suspension and that picker wheel there to grab that seed and put it down the seed tube. And that's just an example of a diverse native seed blend. It's not a fluffy one, but you can see all the different sizes of seeds that are in a diverse blend. Buy seed on a PLS basis, pure live seed. That means you're buying seed, viable seed. If you're buying a 100-pound bag of seed and it's 90% PLS and you're buying on a PLS basis, you're buying the 90 pounds of pure live seed, and that's what you're paying for. The other 10% of chaff or other things, you're not paying for. You're paying for the viable seed. If you buy that seed on a bulk pound basis, you're paying for every pound in that bag, and it may or may not be a better deal. It depends on the price. The only way you know for sure is if you buy on a pure live seed basis. There's a misconception that planting native grass takes 3 to 5 years, Dan. If you do things right, this is year one of a native grass stand in North Texas, a diverse native grass stand on a reclamation project. There was a lot of work getting the soil prepared with some cover crops and allowing early succession to take place to make this soil ready to do it, but that's year one. So thank you. I know we're almost there, a couple minutes. I didn't put my information on here because I never write. If I write down a phone number, I lose it. If you need me, catch me. I'll give you a card. We also have a booth, and Brett Bamert and Brian Hayes will be there also to discuss anything with you. So, any questions?
So, is there any way? Are you thinking about ways to include like nurse crop type? So obviously, I want to rice nurse crop trying to work in my environment, right?
Sure.
So is there any ability to include some of these annuals, as a nurse crop?
Yeah, good question, Josh. And I didn't go over it, but we do recommend a nurse crop in about every blend we put out. There's a fine line between nurse crop and competition. But yes, and the way we will accomplish that is we will assign the MLRA to that product in our database. We'll assign an area that it's adapted to. So going through and we'll have to do our research and make sure that it's backed up that rice fits in this area or German millet fits in this area or something. But yes, and it will be included.
Yep.
I hope in February we have something that
Yeah, and
will
could
go
you
live.
repeat the question?
I'm sorry. The question was, what the expected release date? When we hope it's February. The hurdle we're going through right now is they're moving the edit database. So the API doesn't work. And George was going to be here to discuss all this, and he had some family issues. So from my limited technical knowledge, that's kind of the hurdle. It's just not connecting right now. When they get that done, we should have something we're able to go live. And like I said, the first version is going to be free. Anybody can use it. There are areas of the country that don't have ecological sites that have populated data. And so I think it can be that the same framework can be adapted to other places. It's only services calling the database. But if somebody wants to utilize the tool in other parts of the country, they're going to have to develop a database for a species composition list for that area. Hopefully NRCS will get those done soon.
If there's one more question, let's take one more question, if there is one. All right, well, that's pretty good then. Rob, thank you very much.
Oh, great.
So, you've got all these diverse seed mixes you're putting out. Do you plan on maybe, and you talked about the timing, putting some in, you might take 5 years to get where you want to go. Are you going to provide that information within there as a report or something like that? Get a sense on.
Yeah, I think it's so, especially in our sphere of influence, it's so hard to have an accurate timeline because we're so at Mother Nature's mercy so much. I think we could set realistic expectations of what that is, but I even hate to do that and not have a realistic expectation. I think 2 to 3 years is a realistic expectation. And when things are right, 1 year is a realistic expectation. Sir?
Growing season.
So, sorry, growing seasons. Thanks, Dan.
All right, thank you.